The International Space Station, the largest laboratory ever built in space, weighs about 450 tons, and one day it will fall back to Earth. There are several flaws in this international cooperation which is causing confusion among countries, and this could become the biggest threat to human civilization. So, how will this megastructure, the International Space Station, be brought back to Earth safely? For the past 25 years, it has been stationed in low Earth orbit around Earth by humanity. The space station is where experiments are conducted for our benefit, where humans have continuously maintained their presence outside Earth, and this space station has brought together two different worlds. But now the days of the ISS are numbered. In the coming months, NASA is going to review commercial proposals for vehicles that can decommission the space station in a controlled way and bring it back to Earth. For this, NASA doesn't want to rely on the previously proposed plan, that is, multiple mission vehicles, because recently America and Russia are hesitant to spend billions of US dollars on it. The end of the international civilization is near, but humanity has sent a message. In history, this is going to be the biggest one. In the coming decade, space station decommissioning will become a mega event, and then it will set new parameters for aerospace engineering and international diplomacy. However, those who supported the ISS, like Canada, played an important role. That's why these two countries dominate the space station. One of the first modules of the space station was from the USA and one from Russia, which had reached orbit by 1998. Then, in November 2001, astronaut and two cosmonauts came to live in the modules for the first time, and since then, there has always been someone on the ISS. But the ISS has lasted much longer than its original timeline, so how? In the beginning, it was only built to operate for 15 years, but the mega international message is still there in 2024. In this mega structure, nothing from international civilization lasts forever. You may not like the message, but it was given. Now the pressure on NASA is increasing to present a clear strategy to the world for bringing down this giant machine. Otherwise, it could become a threat to all of human civilization. There's a saying that whatever goes up is bound to come down. Something similar is happening with the ISS as well. Its trajectory needs to be corrected because this megastructure, like any other spacecraft, also loses speed periodically, which causes its altitude to decrease. The altitude will also decrease, and eventually, it will plunge rapidly into the Earth's deeper atmosphere. So how can this megastructure be saved? Because of this, it could break apart into pieces. Orbit maintaining boosts are constantly required. The message was given. Now the problem is that they are controlled by Russia. Whatever fuel and cargo they need to operate is supplied by Russia. Theoretically, it's not even possible to lift this giant beast above low Earth orbit and out of Earth's atmosphere. It would become very expensive. Besides, if the station is simply abandoned in a graveyard orbit, that would be the most dangerous thing, because its parts are more than 2 decades old and they can't be prevented from disintegrating. A space station lying in a graveyard orbit will become a threat to our satellites and our space trips. You can see it as To do this, the space station will have to be brought down to Earth without breaking it and without burning it. But this is also not possible because deconstructing the ISS is neither feasible nor possible. And the reason behind this is that when the space station was being built, it was not designed for disassembly. It was made as a permanent structure orbiting in space, and if we try to do this, after decades of exposure to radiation, its components will create new dangers in space. That's why disassembling the the International Space Station is also a big challenge. It's certain that the space station won't stay in orbit forever. This shining object in Earth's sky will eventually say goodbye to our skies forever and disappear from everyone's sight. So, there are two ways the International Space Station will fall to Earth. Either we will deliberately bring it down through the atmosphere in a controlled manner, or it will deorbit uncontrollably and crash onto our Earth. On one hand, those will truly be glorious moments for us. A great scientific experiment of humanity at its final stage will certainly make us feel a sense of greatness, but an uncontrolled deorbit is a dangerous approach without a doubt. The ISS is even larger than a football field in size. The path it orbits above the Earth is where about 90% of the Earth's population lives. However, until now, no humans have been harmed by a falling spacecraft. But if a large structure like the ISS falls to Earth, it is definitely concerning. If it falls in populated areas, it will cause devastation. An uncontrolled re-entry is dangerous for people on Earth. Many lives could be lost, many could be injured, and there would be property damage as well. But more than that, that day will remain a dark stain in the history of science. People will remember the last journey of the ISS as a bad day. Now, because this will be a global event, the whole world will be watching the ISS that day. But that day will not be good at all. So what is the safest way to bring down the ISS? NASA officials say that if the ISS can somehow be brought down into the South Pacific Ocean, far from populated areas, the chances of damage will be greatly reduced. This plan is very risky. Let me explain how. The space station completes one orbit in about an hour and a half. This means that on Earth, it travels about 250 miles every minute, and as the Earth rotates, its ground track keeps changing continuously. Now, the more time the ISS spends falling through the atmosphere, its parts will disintegrate and cause destruction over a huge swath stretching about 250 miles every minute. To avoid this, we have to bring the space station back to Earth as quickly as possible, but the problem is that the space station can't be brought down quickly. If we do that, it will hit the atmosphere with great force. This will increase air resistance and the entire station will break up into large pieces. For example, its solar arrays and modules will go out of control and follow unpredictable paths, which will almost certainly cause loss of life and property. Besides this, the irregular geometry of the space station increases this risk even more. That's why it's important that when the ISS enters our Earth's atmosphere, and a terrible accident could happen. Even after this, our troubles won't be over. The Earth's atmosphere at that time will be nothing less than a villain for us, our Earth's atmosphere. During the Sun's 11-year activity cycle, it keeps getting thicker and thinner. Apart from this, our atmosphere keeps changing continuously due to the passing of day and night as well. If you are deorbiting a large and heavy structure like the ISS, it depends a lot on what changes are happening in the densities inside the Earth's atmosphere. A slight unpredictable change can bring the entire mission to a dead end. But there's one more thing. Predicting the density of the atmosphere in real time is nearly impossible. If all these facts are combined, then this process will work something like this. For a few weeks or even a few months, the ISS will be left as it is for natural orbital decay. It will gradually lose altitude, and about halfway down, at around 250 miles above the Earth, custom-built vehicles will be attached to the ISS, which will perform a deorbit burn and slowly bring it down. After covering about half the remaining distance, a destabilization effect will be seen on the ISS. It will start to wobble slightly. When this happens at an altitude of 125 miles, mission controllers will adjust its trajectory. By making a slight adjustment, its circular orbit will be changed to an elliptical orbit through a rocket burn. Its minimum distance from Earth will be kept at 90 miles. That means it will still be kept outside Earth's atmosphere. atmosphere. After this, its path will be set in such a way that it comes straight down from the sky. Its linear displacement will be reduced from the elliptical orbit, and finally it will be made to fall into the South Pacific Ocean. The whole world will witness this amazing sight. How will this unbelievable mission be accomplished? Until now, NASA officials have said that 3 Russian Progress vehicles will work together to deorbit the ISS, but this plan has not been finalized. Because if we use multiple deorbiters, there could be problems with coordination, even if everything goes right. Still, there are several challenges in this, such as designing and manufacturing multiple Progress vehicles, keeping their launch pads ready, connecting them, keeping them connected to each other, and doing all this work in a short period of time is nothing less than a challenge. And when it comes to the US-Russia partnership on the ISS, things are not going well here. Since Russia invaded Ukraine, the relationship between these two countries has reached its lowest point since the Cold War. Ideologically and politically, both these countries are at odds with each other, which makes the possibility of improvement in their relationship quite low. This has also created a lot of tension regarding ISS collaboration. Russia has also decided to leave the ISS. It is believed that by 2028, Russia will withdraw its support and everything from the space station, but NASA is not ready for this yet. Russia is highly skilled in aerospace technology, and it won't be easy to replace its technology on the space station so quickly, and it's also not certain whether Russia will provide its Progress vehicles to deorbit the ISS in such a situation or not. Anyway, some recent events have shown that the world's trust in Russian-built hardware is starting to decrease. In 2018, the Russian Soyuz spacecraft, it docked with the space station, and later it was discovered that air was leaking from a small hole in it. The news spread that the Russians had deliberately drilled such a hole. That same year, a Russian flight carrying 2 cosmonauts. The mission had to be aborted due to the launch failure. In 2021, a science module was ready, although it was originally supposed to be launched in 2007. Despite so many delays, there were still many issues seen in this module due to the misfiring of the thrusters. The station went in the wrong direction, but the problem was detected quickly and everything was fixed. In the past few years, leaks have been seen in 3 different places in the Russian cooling systems installed on the ISS, which caused toxic ammonia gas to be released into space. Last year in August, Russia's first lunar mission, which was sent after almost 5 decades, also crashed on the moon. Seeing this, an American deorbit vehicle becomes necessary for NASA. Because Russia can't be relied on in any way, NASA has signed contracts with SpaceX and Boeing. Another reason behind this is that if NASA has its own transportation vehicles, Russia's power will be significantly reduced. If NASA wants to make a single deorbit vehicle, it doesn't have many options. Our existing technology is not sufficient for such deorbit vehicles, but NASA does have the closest existing technology, and that is the European Service Module from the Artemis program, which took NASA's uncrewed Orion capsule into orbit around the moon. And in the future, this will also take humans to the moon. Apart from this, whatever else exists is either too weak or way too powerful, or they simply can't carry enough fuel to complete this task. That's why NASA has put forward a commercial proposal to build custom-built deorbit vehicles. If NASA tries a new vehicle or puts existing vehicles to work, just this one decision can create ripples in US-Russia relations and other international relations, because the end of the space station will be decided with everyone's agreement. But here, NASA's public documents do not make it clear whether the US has taken consent from the Canadian, Japanese, European, and Russian space agencies to commercially execute this plan or not. The end of this mega project in such a way is becoming a hot topic of discussion around the world. Most of the discussion is about future partnerships in space. NASA is partnering with other countries through the Artemis Accord, which includes India, but Russia is not a part of it. This shows that the closeness between these two countries, which the ISS helped to increase, might not be achieved by any other effort. Now it is clear to everyone that Russia wants to leave the ISS, and the other countries will have to take charge of it. The last journey of the ISS will mark the beginning of a new era on Earth. But no matter what happens, that day will be very precious. Everyone will want want to witness that moment, and in this way, the International Space Station will bid us farewell. But today, when everything is in turmoil between two countries on Earth, its impact can also be seen on this space station orbiting in space. Finally, after its long 22-year mission, the ISS, that is the International Space Station, is nearing its end. Russia is soon going to pull out of this mission, after which the future of this space station looks uncertain. So what will happen after the year 2022? Will this home for humans in space be destroyed, or will it be given a new lease on life once again? Well, we will explore all these possibilities in today's documentary, so let's begin this amazing journey. This story begins in the late 90s when NASA was planning to do something truly grand in space. At that time, things were fresh. The achievements of the USSR's Big Bigetan and the Hubble Space Telescope had made NASA proud all over the world. But now it was time to go beyond all those previous achievements and do something new and even bigger. In such a situation, NASA set out in search of a grand endeavor. But this time, it was not alone. This time, it decided to move forward with all its major allies. And the most surprising thing in all this was that this time, along with America, was the Soviet Union, which was once its staunch opponent, which had now broken up and become Russia, was there too this time. Russia also stepped forward and took part in this one-in-a-million mission and worked shoulder to shoulder with America to build this spacecraft. From the first launch in November 1998 to January 2011, hundreds of space flights were carried out. Through these space flights, many tons of heavy components and modules were transported from Earth to about 400 km above into low Earth orbit. Meanwhile, through several components and uncrewed missions, a Canadian robotic arm installed on the space station provided great assistance to the scientists. In fact, this was the very part that made it possible to build the space station in space without human intervention. After the assembly of all the components in space, our space station is now continuously being used for conducting scientific research and experiments. The first crew stayed in this space station between November 2000 and March 2001. This crew consisted of 3 astronauts, including 2 Russian and 1 American astronaut. This 3-member crew carried out scientific experiments in space. They performed all kinds of space station maintenance tasks and safely returned to Earth on March 21, 2001 after completing their mission. And in this way, the first expedition of the International Space Station was completed. Today, that is by 2022, the number of these expeditions has reached a total of 64 currently. The 65th crew is stationed at the ISS. Till now, 258 people have gone to the International Space Station who come from 20 different countries on Earth. This list of countries also includes nations like Malaysia, Israel, Sweden, and South Africa. Therefore, the highest number of people to visit the International Space Station were Americans with a total of 158. After that, the most were 54 Russians, 11 Japanese, and 9 Canadians who have also traveled to the ISS. Anyway, now let's shift the limelight. On today's most important question, is the end of the ISS near? Will Russia's pullback bring the ISS closer to its end? And finally, if this is indeed the beginning of the end, then how will this story reach its conclusion? Well, the story of the International Space Station moves forward and enters the next phase. In the present time frame, where the situation around the world has changed a lot, it's no longer the peaceful atmosphere of the 90s. Once again, there is tension between Russia and America. In the changing geopolitical scenario, the Chinese have now taken the place of the Soviets. After nearly 2 decades of peace, the Russian crisis has deepened once again. First with Crimea and then with the invasion of Ukraine, the relations between America and Russia have deteriorated significantly. In such a situation, the impact of this ground conflict is also being seen in space. The International Space Station, which was built through mutual agreement, now seems surrounded by many questions regarding its future. To understand this story in more depth, we reach the International Space Station about 400 kilometers above the Earth's surface in space. This is what it looked like at the moment. come, now let's understand it in more detail with the help of these graphics and animations. Currently, the part of the International Space Station that you can see is controlled by NASA, that is, the United States. On the other hand, this small section belongs to Roscosmos, that is, Russia's property, which will be undocked from the ISS and dropped into the Pacific Ocean after the Russian pullout. Giving detailed information about this, the chief of the Russian Space Agency, Yuri Borisov, says that the decision to end Russian cooperation with the International Space Station has already been made. The year 2024 has been set for the end of this cooperation. That means 2024 will be the last year when any Russian will visit the International Space Station. And after that, Russian cosmonauts and components will be permanently banned from the ISS. Because NASA has clearly stated that they are committed to keeping this space station operational at least until 2030. In this situation, the question arises, how much will NASA be affected after Russia withdraws from this mission? And after this, will the International Space Station continue to operate as usual, or will there be difficulties in its operations? Well, the answers to all these questions are clear from the recent changes made by America. Whether it's ending dependence on Russian Soyuz rockets for resupplies, or ending its use of Russian spaceports and launch vehicles for crew launches. Year after year, America has been reducing its dependence on Russia for the International Space Station. Now, there is nothing on the ISS that NASA can't handle on its own. With the help of private aerospace companies like SpaceX and its allies, NASA can easily control the International Space Station. So, after Russia pulls back, the ISS, that is the International Space Station, is going to lose an entire Russian research lab. As a result, many important experiments there won't continue in the future. Along with this, as soon as this Russian module leaves, the ISS will also lose docking access for the Soyuz spacecraft. After that, the world's most successful spacecraft, Soyuz, will have no connection with the International Space Station. And look at the irony here. The ISS, whose construction was started by Russia, yes, Russia was the very first country. It was Russia that launched the first module of the space station, Zarya, into space, and now the same Russia is about to leave this mission. Another big challenge that will arise after Russia leaves the space station is about maneuvering its path. Actually, the orbit in which the ISS revolves around the Earth is full of space debris. The amount of space junk present there is so high that if even for a single day they stop monitoring it and let the ISS orbit without maneuvering, it will soon collide with the debris and get destroyed. In such a situation, the entire space station would be destroyed and scattered in an instant. In fact, the propulsion motors are present only in the Russian module. These are the ones that save the space station by increasing its altitude in case of orbital decay or when space debris comes in the way. However, NASA is seriously considering what solution can be found for this problem. Whether it was the Japanese space agency JAXA's modular propulsion plan in the past, or the idea of the American private aerospace company Northrop Grumman to develop such an advanced system that would always keep the ISS in a safe and sound orbit. Therefore, it cannot be forgotten that Russian technology is not something makeshift for today or tomorrow, but it has taken decades to develop and billions of dollars have been spent on it. In such a situation, how right it is to leave this and shift to another technology and rely completely on it, only time will tell. But there is one thing you can be sure of from now on, and that is, in any situation, America will definitely continue the ISS mission for at least the next 8 years, no matter how many difficulties come. After all, this is the world's largest and most expensive piece of space machinery, and keeping this engineering marvel alive is not just NASA's duty, but also its commitment. As for the end of this space station, most probably, if the ISS doesn't get any extension after 2030, then on a suitable date, with full respect, there's a place in the South Pacific Ocean called Point Nemo, which is also known as the Spacecraft Cemetery. That's where it will be deliberately crashed, where, therefore, this great spacecraft will forever rest in a watery grave and will become a part of history. Who knows, maybe by then some other spacecraft will also be buried there. Countries like India and Europe might start competing to conquer space. Nowadays, China has started increasing its influence in space, and soon China is going to become the third space power in the world. But China's sudden aggressive moves in space have started to panic the major space powers because the situation on the ground is quite serious. We know what China's attitude is like, how it has made many countries its slaves even today, and how it is using various tactics to occupy the lands of other countries. But major space agencies like NASA believe that China is going to do the same thing in space, and this threat could have serious consequences for the entire world. NASA Administrator Bill Nelson recently claimed that China could occupy the moon and drive other countries away from there. However, China has denied any such claims, saying that it will not occupy any space territory, but at the same time, Bill Nelson emphasizes that it's a fact we are in a space race, as strange and alarming as that may sound. But if that happens, the situation on Earth is going to get much worse. The entire Earth and the world's economy can be run from the moon, and if the moon falls into the hands of an authoritarian power like China, then nothing can stop the entire human race from becoming enslaved in the 21st century. Here, the space race is only between three superpowers, the USA, Russia, and China, but the whole world will not be able to escape its impact. Everyone is aware of the political relations between the USA, Russia, and China, but still, NASA and the Russian space agency Roscosmos have a long history of cooperation in space exploration. Both countries share the same space station, but NASA and the emerging China National Space Administration, or CNSA, do not have any such historical background. When they are rivals on Earth, their rivalry will continue in space as well, and you could already see this clearly in 2003. Yuri Gagarin had already been sent to space, and China sent its first taikonaut, that is, a Chinese astronaut, into space in 2003. Can controversy arise? That's because NASA and China are showing a kind of competition in space missions going forward. It's controversial because NASA and China are both racing to be the first to claim the moon. We're not saying at all that America can't claim the moon. It absolutely can. You'll find out the reason for this further in the video. So, where the USA has launched the Artemis program to go to the moon again, they want to perform science and commercial activities in a transparent way, and for this, NASA has the same China and have together created the Artemis Accord, which is an international partnership. Other countries will also be able to contribute to it. You'll find its link in the description. You can check it out, but you won't see China and Russia here. Both countries were intentionally kept out of this agreement. The US Congress has forbidden NASA from collaborating with China, and Russia itself chose not to sign this agreement. They said that this agreement was completely focused on the USA, and because of this, China and Russia came together and established a joint project to put the USA on the back foot, the International Lunar Research Station, which will be a permanent moon base on the moon. Although technically there is no direct conflict between NASA and China's missions, this is about to start a second space race. 21. The space race of the 21st century, all countries know what benefits there could be to establishing a moon base on the moon. But according to space law, no country can legally claim land on the moon. But the increasing tension between countries can show us how weak our space laws are and how they can be misused. In space, they are enough to attract towards themselves apart from the Earth. Now let's turn to space laws and see how violating them amid tensions between countries could hurt the whole world. By the way, our international space laws are quite weak, but here we need to focus on the Outer Space Treaty of 1967 and how it is misused. There are no such rules in this that can stop countries from carrying out any specific activity in outer space. The concern is that if America wants to take over the moon, it can show that our space laws are weak and take advantage of them. the moon and other celestial bodies are to be used for the benefit of humanity in peace and prosperity. We should remember that astronauts will represent humanity, meaning they will act in favor of humankind. That, simply put, is the gist of the Outer Space Treaty. If you want, we can make a separate video on that as well. But for now, we'll talk about the Moon Agreement within this treaty. Because all this conflict, the rising tension between countries, this agreement shows how weak the protection of rights over the Moon and other planets is in space. But the rising tension between any superpowers of the countries can show, and China never signed this agreement, to stop them from occupying the moon, or to awaken their conscience, or to awaken their ethics or moral principles. At least this tool can be leveraged. That's why at the start of the video, though other parts of this treaty could backfire. But to some extent, they are also right. For example, in this point about jurisdiction, it is said that if any tension between countries in space increases, we can see it on somebody. So that thing was taken advantage of by that country and they misused it. If a country can cover a very large area, does that mean the entire area will come under that country's control? What happens to them if tension over the facility rises? Will that country control them too, and their benefit? Can benefit, because in the coming time, the one who has resources will become the superpower and away from the Earth. Tension between countries shows this, which is why everyone is panicking over the moon's aggressive attitude. Space exploration has always tested the limits of their wrong civilization. As soon as NASA can go on that mission, it will become a reality for us. Imagine an astronaut has gone on an expedition to a remote area near the moon's south pole, but at the same time, tensions are rising between countries. That astronaut is present at the moon's south pole, and they took advantage of this, and the temperature there, it goes down to even below minus 173 degrees. After this incident, all kinds of communication with that expedition and astronaut are lost. In temperatures lower than minus 173 degrees Celsius and with limited oxygen, that astronaut is now fighting for life. But the conflict between countries is increasing. On the moon, in a remote area where nothing can be seen for miles, there is no GPS, no radio connection. Apart from the tension, the dangerous thing is what was seen there and how it could be misused. But the increasing tension in between can neither be shown nor can anyone shout because there is no one there to listen, and they took advantage of this situation. But the situations that can happen on the moon are not found anywhere else. Where blackouts are common, the area is completely filled with deep pits, craters, and big rocks, which make any task for that astronaut very challenging due to the increasing tension. This can happen every second. We will face a new danger in space, and in that vacuum where some countries may misuse things, any equipment malfunction can give us errors due to the increasing tension, and all these instrument failures can be exploited by those living on the moon base and astronauts. So to deal with all these problems, A team of researchers from UNISA, that is, the University of South Africa, has developed this. This system can prove to be a boon for astronauts going to the moon. It has been designed keeping in mind the harsh and unique conditions of the moon. This system ensures that no matter what situation our astronauts are in on the moon, even if they are in any remote area, there will always be someone present. This groundbreaking technology can show us the way forward, and its misuse is possible. This technology is going to be the future of space exploration because it's not limited to just the moon. In the future, this technology will be used everywhere. So in today's video, we will talk about lunar exploration and how beyond our Earth on the moon, something like this. Get ready, because this very exciting journey is about to begin. Dangers of lunar exploration, exploring the moon in detail, colonizing it. It sounds very futuristic, science fictional, and extremely exciting. But it's one of the most dangerous environments where humans would ever want to live. There is no atmosphere on the moon, which simply means there's nothing to breathe. There's no air, and there's no weather there. And there's also no protection that can save us from the deadly radiation coming from the sun and space. During the day, the surface temperature on the moon can reach up to 127 degrees Celsius, and at night, it drops below minus 173 degrees Celsius. And in such conditions, where there is such a huge shift in temperature, without any shelter or proper equipment, this shift can kill humans within minutes. The south pole of the moon, where NASA is preparing to send its future missions, is even more dangerous and difficult to reach. Because of this, some of these craters are so cold that they are beyond our imagination. So they will have to rely completely on their equipment, and if there is even a slight problem here, the consequences can be fatal for them. Another major risk comes in communication. Radio signals can't fully cover the moon because of its rough and uneven surface in the remote areas. If an astronaut goes into a deep crater or gets stuck in an area where radio signals can't reach, then he won't be able to contact mission control or the nearby colonized areas. The harsh environment of the moon and that loneliness will be such that it will become impossible for him to call for help. In such survival situations, time will be everything. Every second without communication will continuously decrease their chances of survival. And after that, there are some mechanical risks as well, involving the spacesuit, rover, and life support system. All these things are designed to operate in the harsh environment of the moon, but they are not completely foolproof. And if even one piece of equipment fails, like a crack in the helmet visor or a malfunction in the oxygen tank, or even, you could say that if the rover dies, it would put the astronauts in a situation where there would be no way out, and for them, there would be no escape. There won't be any backup there, and in the vacuum of space, unlike a game, there won't be any second chances. During the Apollo missions, the astronauts were fully aware of these dangers, but those missions lasted only a few days. But NASA's Artemis mission, in which astronauts might have to stay on the moon for a few weeks or even a few months, and the longer they stay on the moon, the higher the chances become of them getting stuck in such a situation or something going wrong with them. And at this point, a reliable rescue and communication system becomes extremely important for the colony that will be built on the moon. Without this, we can't even think about exploring the moon for a long time. There are some unknown factors that we often don't consider, and there will definitely be similar factors present on the moon as well, which can ruin our planning at any time. Our astronauts can get into big trouble at any time, and the loss we face at that time could prove to be the biggest setback for the entire space industry and space exploration. And that's why we urgently need new alarm systems. How does the lunar distress system work? The new Lunar Distress System is a technological breakthrough for us, designed specifically to address some unique challenges that arise during space exploration. However, it is based on the existing COSPAS-SARSAT system, which is a satellite-based rescue network. We often use it on Earth, but to adapt it for the extreme environment of the Moon, many changes have been made to it. There is no on-ground infrastructure or GPS on the Moon, nor are there any towers through which we can transfer signals. So this new lunar distress system will be completely based on a constellation of satellites that will be orbiting the Moon. That means a lot of satellites will be orbiting the Moon. And they will be keeping a sharp eye on every corner of the Moon, and that network of satellites will be the foundation of our distress system. This doesn't transfer. So through this system, he will activate a low-power emergency beacon which will be installed in his equipment. This beacon will be a device that will send a signal directly to those satellites orbiting the Moon, and then from there, those satellites will forward that signal further. It will reach Earth-based mission control or any nearby lunar base on the Moon, which means that if any astronaut is really in trouble, someone will immediately find out about it. In this entire system, beacon technology is a key innovation. Dr. Mark Rice is the lead researcher at the University of South Africa and also the founder of Safety from Space. He explains that the beacon can handle transmissions for up to 10 hours even in low power conditions. And this becomes extremely important for those astronauts who are going very far from their base for some work or exploration and have limited battery life. The Bayform technology developed by his team ensures that communication with astronauts remains stable and energy efficient, which is extremely important for survival in space. Another feature of this system is real-time tracking. The satellite network continuously monitors the location of astronauts, allowing mission control to track their movements, even in conditions where their contact with the base or control has been lost. And this capability becomes especially important when an astronaut gets stuck behind a very high mountain or in a deep crater. In such emergency conditions, if we know the astronaut's exact precise location, then our ability to locate them there, and we can use it to carry out the rescue operation more quickly. This system is also designed to work automatically. That means it doesn't require constant human supervision. Every second is extremely valuable in an emergency. And because of its automated response system, astronauts can focus entirely on their own survival. And to rescue them, some help will definitely be on the way. This technology is not just a safety measure. This could prove to be a game changer for space exploration. By providing continuous communication and location tracking, it gives astronauts the opportunity to explore farther. This assures astronauts that if they go on a dangerous mission on the Moon, they won't be alone. If anything goes wrong in the mission anywhere, help will be available for them immediately. Applications beyond the Moon. The most exciting aspect of this rescue system is that it won't just be used on the Moon. In fact, we will be able to use this system beyond the Moon as well. For example, the survival of human civilization, missions to Mars, and other deep space destinations all depend on the Moon. The challenges we face, such as communication blackouts and long response times, will become even more daunting on Mars. Imagine if an astronaut gets stuck in a serious situation on Mars, sending a distress call from there to Earth. There, it will become the difference between life and death. But with the use of this new system, if an astronaut gets into trouble, the beacon technology will immediately send this information to ground control on Earth. But at the same time, the information will also reach the base built on Mars, and it is being developed for use on Earth as well. It is called Beagle. This technology can be very useful here on Earth in remote or hazardous environments or in search and rescue efforts. For example, from mountaineers stranded in the Himalayas to first responders working in disaster zones, Beagle provides low-power communication capabilities. Even if other conventional networks fail there, this technology is so reliable that it keeps working even in the worst conditions, and Beagle's two-way communication feature makes it even more useful. Unlike traditional SOS systems that only send a signal, Beagle allows people to communicate with rescuers as well, so they can update others about their situation. This real-time information can be extremely helpful for rescuers in making and executing their plans. This also saves time and reduces the loss of life and property. Here, we see a similarity between space and Earth-based applications in how space technology can prove beneficial for humanity. Whether it's about saving astronauts on the moon or ensuring that a serious situation on Earth doesn't get out of control, communication is maintained in any emergency. This new lunar distress system is a big step for the safety of astronauts as we prepare for long-term missions to the moon, Mars, and beyond. But for this, it becomes very important for us to have a reliable communication and rescue system. Space exploration is full of many unknown and mysterious dangers, and without such innovations, the risks become much greater. And this is where humans demonstrate the capability of the system. This shows how the innovations happening through space exploration are making a difference in our daily lives and our everyday routines. How is it improving? This technology guarantees it, whether on the moon or in remote Earth regions, that if someone needs assistance, it can be very useful for sailors at sea as well. We often hear that many accidents happen at sea due to lack of help, and this technology is nothing less than a blessing there. As NASA is advancing the Artemis program, our dream of exploring the world is also about to come true. But exploration is only possible when it is safe. Many thanks to the researchers at the University of South Africa for their commendable work. Now, whether astronauts go to the moon, even knowing that there is danger there, they also know that they have a plan. They have confidence that if they get into trouble, the people backing them will come to rescue them. Do you know there is a side of the moon that you are still unaware of? Actually, it takes the same amount of time to rotate on its own axis. In this way, only one side of the moon always faces the Earth, which we are able to see at night. This strange phenomenon is known as tidal locking in astronomy. And this tidal locking is responsible for the fact that we have remained unaware of one side of our moon until now. Now, it's not like we've never seen this dark side of the moon until now. In fact, when it has been seen or when something has gone around it, they observed it, and after returning to Earth, they revealed it to the whole world. Recently, China's Chang'e 4 lunar lander, which touched down on the moon's dark side, also saw an otherworldly light glowing there. These encounters were definitely unusual, which still makes us think about that mysterious part of the moon. After all, what is there in that part of the moon that we haven't seen yet? Or is it something that hasn't been shown to us at all? We will go through many such mysteries and conspiracies in today's episode, because today we are going to show you the face of the moon that has been hidden from the whole world until now. So friends, let's begin this journey with a quick recap of the past. Well, this story begins. Everyone closes their eyes and folds their fingers. That meant all they could do was pray. A delay in the moon's first ever human landing could have cost NASA a huge price. But here, NASA and the 3 astronauts were fortunate, and overcoming all obstacles and difficulties, they successfully reached the moon's orbit. There, to further land on the moon's surface, 2 astronauts, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin, shifted to the lunar module and immediately began their descent toward the moon's surface. Meanwhile, Command Module pilot Michael Collins began orbiting about 100 kilometers above the moon's surface. In such a moment, when this landing was successfully accomplished, it became one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. And with this one step, the storm of lunar exploration began, which shattered the mysteries of the moon, broke down all the barriers of secrets, and pushed the limits of excitement. However, just moments after this first lunar expedition began, that Actually, it was a sight of a bright supernatural light that Buzz Aldrin himself saw with his own eyes. But he never shared this weird experience with NASA while he was on the moon. He remained silent and buried this secret in his heart as he headed back home to Earth. Finally, when he reached Earth on July 24, 1979, he revealed this unknown mystery to the whole world. Describing this incident, he said that when I was looking out of the lunar module's window, I saw something that completely shocked me. For a moment, I started thinking about what that strange thing was, which I could see hovering over the moon right in front of my eyes. It's a cluster of rapidly flickering lights that appears to be floating just above the surface of the moon. Buzz Aldrin only said that much, and from UFOs to the presence of alien life on the moon, countless theories and rumors started to emerge. However, these claims have also been refuted over time. And that too with the argument that we have been observing the moon for more than 6 decades now. So if there was anything like that there, why has it never been seen? Why have we never noticed any suspicious activity on the moon? In this matter, critics have their own opinions and optimists have theirs. In such a situation, it is becoming quite difficult to know what the truth is, and this search for the truth has led us to our next destination, China. No, not China itself, but rather the Chinese lander Chang'e 4 on the moon. Now, this lander is already dead, but it is this lander that has breathed life into the possibility of life on the moon. Man, they really saw a strange substance that was sparkling and shining. It seems that way because our prior studies clearly show that the majority of the moon's composition is made up of volcanic ash, in which there are no traces of any such element that would shine or glow under normal conditions. In such a situation, it creates more confusion as to what is there on the far side of the moon that keeps attracting us towards it. By the way, China is unlikely to make its research and discoveries public, and even otherwise, it's quite difficult to say anything definite about this. After all, since it's a Chinese discovery, it's still hard to say how much we can really trust it. But man, the question still remains whether there really is any such advanced civilization on the moon that we've been unaware of until now. And after all, what are the possibilities that we go to the moon again and the so-called aliens don't attack us? Now look man, because America is going back to the moon, and this time with some new intentions. So in such a case, if there's any alien existence there, then this time our astronauts are definitely going to encounter them. Otherwise, even before NASA carries out its actual moon landing mission, it conducts dozens of different types of test missions. NASA thoroughly checks everything to make it foolproof. Now, even if there was any alien there, just think, wouldn't they have been caught on these cameras? Yes, brother, cameras. These heavy satellites are basically big cameras that are constantly keeping an eye on the moon every moment. So one thing is confirmed from this: there is no advanced civilization living permanently on the moon. Now, if they are deliberately trying to hide from us or waiting for the right time to attack us, then that's a different case altogether. But under normal circumstances, the existence of any advanced civilization there and them targeting us seems next to impossible. Now, as far as the far side of the moon is concerned, this part of the moon is indeed quite suspicious and mysterious. Because in the past few decades, what exactly is there can only be known by going there, but for now, what we know about that area of the moon is that reaching there will not be any less challenging. From restoring the radio network for communication to choosing the right landing site, a lot of things need to be taken care of. The dark side of the moon is also quite scary for this reason, because when Israel's own Bereshit lander reached there, it also crashed. And if the same thing happens in the future, if another last-minute incident occurs, especially a crash, then when there is a human on board the spacecraft, just thinking about it makes you shiver. Some technical images, one of which is of the part we call the near side of the moon, which always faces the Earth. And this is the image of the far side of the moon, which is turned away from us. If you look closely at both these images, you can clearly see the difference between them just by looking at them. Actually, that part of the moon has craters formed by asteroid impacts, and due to the uneven distribution of masses, there are also mountains. In fact, what we are calling mountains are actually volcanoes that have cooled down. During their active period, a lot of volcanic ash and magma deposits on the moon came out from here. This is what makes our soft landing turn into a hard landing on that dark side of the moon. As for the so-called aliens present here, we've already debunked that myth. Another warrior has been buried on Mars. Another attempt has failed on Mars, and this time Mars has humbled a new superpower from Earth. Yes, the Chinese Mars rover Zhurong hasn't been able to move from its spot for the past 6 months. To survive the extreme cold winds and deadly chill on Mars, the Chinese Space Agency, CNSA, had put this rover into hibernation mode, with the hope that when the winter ends, the mission will continue, but it's been almost 6 months since the winter ended. The rover hasn't even moved from its place. So far, CNSA hasn't officially said anything about this mission, but the report from NASA's orbiter, MRO, that is, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, forces us to conclude that it couldn't survive the Martian winter. Once again, our machines have been defeated by nature. What's the whole story behind this Chinese rover? Is this mission really over? If so, then what could be the reasons this mission ended this way? Let's find out. In today's There has hardly been a year when China hasn't been in the news. Whether it's about its falling space station Chang'e or its rover roaming on the dark side of the moon, U2 has also remained in the headlines because of its mysterious discoveries, and now the success of its rover on Mars has taken China to a whole new level. It has now emerged as a new space power. However, China's growing dominance in space has definitely made the whole world concerned. That's why there are very few other lunar countries that can compete with China. China has carried out 7 launches so far and not a single mission has failed. They have even landed orbiters, landers and rovers on the moon. And in 2020, by completing the Chang'e 5 mission, they also brought about 2 kilograms of lunar soil samples back to Earth from the moon. China's exploration program was started and the Tianwen-1 mission was launched. In this mission, an orbiter, a lander, and a rover were sent. After about 7 months of deep space journey, on February 10, 2021, this spacecraft successfully entered Mars's orbit. For the next 3 months, the landing site for its lander and rover was pinpointed and studied. And finally, on May 14, 2021, the lander and rover successfully made a soft landing on the surface of Mars, and China became the second country to make a soft landing on Mars. This achievement was very significant in itself. The rover descended from the ramp attached to the lander and explored a place on Mars called Utopia Planitia. Now, it's not just the American flag on Mars. China has also joined this race. The main objective of this mission is to test China's deep space communication and control technology, but it has landed on Mars to accomplish 5 objectives. The first is to understand the geological structure of Mars. The next objective is to study the large structures on this planet, such as volcanoes, valleys, glaciers, and riverbeds, collecting samples of its surface and subsurface Martian soils to determine water distribution and water ice. Another main objective is to find out the composition of Martian rocks and the minerals found in rocks from ancient lakes, so that the existence of rivers on Mars can be confirmed. And by Bitadora, studying its atmosphere and the weather on Mars is an important part of this mission, so that it can be understood how Mars actually works. And finally, studying the internal structure of Mars and its magnetic field has been a main objective of this mission. And it is also mentioned on Wikipedia that China could carry out a sample return mission to Mars by 2030. And this same rover will collect those samples and preserve them until 2030. Although by May 2022, this rover had done its job well, but who has ever been able to stand against the mysterious dust of Mars? After May, the winter season starts on Mars. The temperature on Mars drops rapidly, and at the same time, the Chinese space agency CNSC releases a statement. The decreasing power generation capacity of the solar wings, which is caused by the sand on Mars, the dusty storms on Mars, and the extremely low temperatures in the surroundings. Due to the design, limitations, and flight control strategy of the rover, we will have to put the Zhurong rover into sleep mode. And in this way, on May 18, 2022, this rover standing on Mars is put to sleep for some time so that its energy can be conserved. But at the same time, the space agency also said that around the last month of 2022, that is in December, when the spring season arrives on Mars, from then on, it will wake up from sleep mode and resume its normal work. That means when conditions on Mars improve, this rover will also start working again. But for now, it will have to save its power, and doing this to keep it alive is something we have to do. But December has passed, January 2, and even February. It's been almost 6 months now. Spring season has already started on Mars, but the rover still hasn't woken up, which means it's still in sleep mode. No matter how much Mars fascinates us, the conditions there are extremely harsh. Especially when it comes to winters, the cold on Mars proves to be the most dangerous for our rovers. This rover from China also faced extreme temperatures. During the winters, the temperature around this rover was about minus 20 degrees Celsius during the day, and at night, it dropped down to minus 100 degrees. At the same time, when this rover was powered down, the dust storm in that area was also quite active. Because of this, sand and dust had accumulated on the rover's solar panels. Because of this, it was not able to generate energy in the weak sunlight during the winter. China has not said anything about this mission recently, whether this mission is over, whether the rover will work or not. No official from China has answered any of these questions yet. In fact, all the news has come out. 3 images of the Martian surface were taken by the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter's high-rise camera. In these images, we can also see the rover. In the images from March 11 and September 8, 2022, the rover hasn't moved at all. It's standing in the same spot. But in the third image, which was taken on February 7, 2023, we can see that the rover hasn't moved at all. After this, NASA scientists also released some more images of this rover. This shows that the rover probably couldn't withstand the harsh Martian winter, and maybe this rover's mission is over. However, there is no update from China's side regarding this. But here is something to think about. If machines can't withstand the Martian winter, will humans be able to survive in Mars' extreme environment? Do let us know in the comment section. Friends, if you like this video, please like it and share it with your friends. For more such informative videos, do subscribe to our channel. Friends, see you again with another informative video like this. Until then, stay curious, be happy, and goodbye.